Thank you for tuning in to the Sisters Talk podcast. My name is Danny M, and I'm your host today. Today we have very special guest, Miss Karen Scott Speaks. Say hi to the audience. Thank you so much for being on the show today. And it's very cloudy in H Town. Let us know where you're from.
I am from Newport News, Virginia, which is about 3 hours south of Washington, D.C.
Nice. So, how often do you go to DC? I've never been.
Uh, Once a month. I'm either going there or passing through.
Nice.
So,
That's good. I'm gonna have to travel there one day.
yeah,
So, what's the weather like up there right now?
it is nasty. It gets really hot, and then once it gets so hot, it pops, and we just got a thunderstorm right in the middle of the day.
Oh my
So,
gosh, it must be raining across America. Maybe not in Cali, but I know in Texas and where you are, it's raining. That's crazy.
mhm.
So, Miss Karen, let us know, like, who is Karen Scott?
Hi, I am Karen Scott Speaks. I am a motivational speaker. I have been speaking professionally for about 2 years now. And before that, I was speaking for 20 years. So I say I've been speaking informally 20 years and professionally 2 years. And today I'm going to talk about practicing wellness and about my journey today. I am a two-time author. My first book is Exodus 40 Lessons from the Wilderness. It's a devotional book, very easy read. And I also have a novel coming out called The Day I Found Out Who I Was. And so
Wow.
I'm so excited to be a part of this podcast today.
Awesome, awesome. And thank you again for sharing your time. And wow, that book, Exodus, is pretty thick. I bet it has some really good content inside of it. I can't wait to learn more about that. So yes, we're talking about practicing wellness, guys, and we talk about this a lot on the Sisters Talk podcast about healing, about trauma, about making sure that you acknowledge those issues that you may have had in your childhood and learn how to heal from them. Don't let the negative energy perpetuate into your adulthood and the decision making that you have for yourself and your family. So I want to thank you, Karen, for reaching out to me to talk about this very needed topic today. So, without further ado, we're going to jump into some more questions. So, how did you find out about the Sisters Talk podcast?
Well, part of my marketing strategy, and whether you're in speaking or any type of business, you have to have a marketing strategy. So I'm always looking for podcasts, events, and somehow I came across your information on Instagram and I decided to reach out and it worked out. So I'm just pleased to be here.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So, people who are looking to be on the show, you guys, make sure you reach out to us. You can go to our email address at sistercwt@gmail.com, and I'll make sure to reach back out to you, especially when you're giving back, pouring back into the community. This is a very needed topic that we're going to talk about today. So, Karen, we talked a little bit behind the scenes about the year of 2020, how it changed the lives of so many people. And I want to know, like, what was some of the obstacles that you faced last year?
2020 was the worst year of my life. It was the middle of a pandemic. I was in the middle of a high risk pregnancy,
Wow.
and things got so toxic at work that I decided to move along. And I had never been mistreated at a job, but this particular uh, this particular group of people is like no matter how much I tried to appease them, they were not willing to work with me. They weren't willing to train me. I was pretty new on the staff. And there was no grace for
Mm.
me whatsoever. And I had never been part of the trauma was I had never been rejected so much from people who really genuinely didn't know me. They didn't even give me a chance to prove myself. They kind of wrote me off right away. And so I had never been out of a job. After college, I went into my professional career. I had 13 years on the job. And then all of a sudden, with this particular group of people, it was just like, ah. And like I said, I was midway through my pregnancy at the time. And so it was the perfect storm. We
Yeah,
love to have our best battles when we are on top of the world, but no, they come right when you least need to fight.
exactly.
But that taught me of all the things, because the sequence of events, was enough to put somebody in a nut house.
Mm.
And I am so glad that I still had my mind. I'm so glad I did not cuss anybody out on social media. I didn't lose my integrity. And I think that's why they were so surprised, and that's why we were able to shake hands more amicably. I did all the legal stuff and all that stuff, but they were, other people try to provoke Black women. And then when we respond as the angry Black woman, they say, see, this is why we didn't promote her. This is why we don't like her. But they don't realize that they provoked the situation. The fact that I was so calm and I was able to see this as a season of rest and not a season of judgment. I was up to 3 appointments a week with my pregnancy. It was rough. My first pregnancy was a walk in the park with my son. But my daughter, she was kicking my behind. And so I saw it as a season of rest. And we didn't miss a meal. We didn't miss health insurance. My relationship with my husband got better. It was so many sweet moments in what I would call my winter. And I'm just so grateful that I got out of it. I was able to start my new job 6 weeks after the baby was born. So it was all perfect timing. I could see it as, okay, this was a loss of this segment of my life, but it was the beginning of something new and something greater. So I'm just so excited to share more.
I love that. And you say it so gracefully. You remind me of Tabitha Brown, you don't shade anyone. You just tell it how it is, And I love the fact that you kept your integrity. That's a big selling point. And it speaks to your character. So definitely kudos to you. And yes, everything does happen when it's supposed to happen. It happens right on time, So congratulations on the baby girl and congratulations on your new career. So, and that's interesting, not only you were going through that, there were millions of American people that were losing jobs that they had been on for 10, 20, 30, some people 30 years, And I think it was just, like you said, the perfect storm for people to really find out and hone into who they really were.
Right.
Kudos to you and your marriage and your relationship as well, because I also heard a lot of couples tell me, because I'm also a relationships coach, that they were able to spend time on each other.
Wow, yeah.
Time with and on each other, and also with themselves, right? Because sometimes we're so busy at work, sometimes we're so busy with the kids, if you have children, that you forget about self, you forget about your spouse. You're just, at this point, you're operating under survival mode. And we really need to stop and think about, are we happy? Are we doing the necessary things like communicating effectively and connecting with each other every day? So that's good stuff. And I love how you took your storm and turned it into like the perfect mixing bowl of opportunity for you, right? So what inspired your wellness journey?
Well, there's a woman that I follow named Jess Ekstrom, and she talks about telling your story from the stage. And I didn't realize I was in the middle of my story. And me stepping away from my job and all that stuff, that began my wellness journey, because I didn't need to snap. I didn't need to lose my mind. I was pregnant. My oldest was 4. I wanted to be okay. I mean, I'm still working through the trauma of it. And that's a part of the healing process. But that began my wellness journey, because I didn't realize that I was being anchored. So what happened was I stepped away from the job in May. So we had been 2 months into quarantine. And so we had all this time. And so I had always heard of Bishop Jakes, but I never sat through any of his sermons. And I knew of Iyanla Vanzant from her show, but I never sat and listened to her teach. So since we had all this time in quarantine, I would watch a sermon a day. I would watch Iyanla on her YouTube channel, and I didn't realize I was feeding myself. So when my tree was shaken, I didn't realize that my roots had been deepened so I could handle it. So that was God preparing me for the storm. And when I tell you, I kept landing on sermons about seasons that kept coming up. Little did I know that I was heading into the end of a season. the end of an era. And so that led to my wellness journey. Since I had so much time, I had to feed myself positive messages because, like I said, the way the events happened, it was so nasty. I
Mm.
had never been a victim of Mean Girls before, but it was like Mean Girls meets the workplace. Um, and so that ended up being, I was in the middle of my story. And so every day I would keep feeding myself, keep feeding myself, keep praying, keep, Iyanla Vanzant, she's great at her show, but she is a teacher. And Bishop Jakes is such a hard, heavy hitter. But that's for me. If you are of a different faith background, you can find someone who will fill you up. I speak that you need to have some type of soul food. Who is feeding you? Because whatever you're feeding off of, you are what you eat. So I really challenge people to find one or two thought leaders or ministers or who are really going to feed you, because you don't know when the storm is going to hit, but you got to build the ark before the rains come. And I didn't realize that that was what was happening. My roots were being shored up so that when my tree was shaken, I was anchored and I
Mm.
could stand and still go on interviews and still, keep my head and relax and enjoy not enjoy, it was a rough pregnancy, but, go through the process without snapping, without snapping. So that was the beginning of my wellness journey.
I love that. Oh, that's powerful. That is powerful. And I hope that it inspires somebody out there who may be going through a storm. We were talking behind the scenes, we were saying how 2021 is so much better than
Yes.
2020 for us. But there may be someone who's just starting their journey through the storm.
Right.
So
Hmm.
definitely appreciate your transparency on that topic. So, what are some important reasons why we should practice wellness for people who say, I'm tired of hearing about self love, self care, it doesn't work, it's not helping me? Like, what would be your advice, to those people?
First off, wellness is really getting your mind correct. Getting your mind, and because we as Black women, we as women living in a man's world, we come into trauma. We're born into the trauma, and so having a practice, having a steady regimen of feasting on soul food and saying positive affirmations is good for your soul. For me, positive affirmations have been really helpful because as much as I like to motivate, I could be very negative in my mind. I love my mother, but I grew up in a very critical household, and so I have replaced the bully. And so for me, positive affirmations have been useful to rebuilding my mind so that when things happen, I do not fall apart. Or when I stub my toe, I'm not saying, oh, I hate myself or I hate my life and all that stuff. So but you may have abandonment issues. So you may struggle with trying to perform so people don't leave you again. So whatever your wellness journey, whatever you didn't get as a child, and whatever you lacked in your adulthood, trauma happens to us whenever. Um, you will need to craft a wellness journey unique to you, okay? So that you are getting your needs met. And also, when we practice wellness, we can be more forgiving of others. When we are well, we can see where someone else is sick. And I speak on leaders being able to spot when their team member is operating in a space of lack. But you can only see that if you're well. If you're also sick, you're not going to see it. You're not going to care. You're not going to be forgiving of that person's process. But if you're operating from a space of wellness, it's like, especially those of you who are supervisors, mothers, head of whatever, the shepherd has to be healthy so it can spot when the sheep is going astray. And 2020 was a roller coaster for everybody, even people who didn't lose their job. Even, it was just overwhelming. It was just, our world was turned upside down. We're still trying to figure things out. But practicing wellness helps you to be in a space that you can help others take the cape off. You can help others on their wellness journey. I give the example of, somebody just lost a loved one or two or three to COVID. They don't need to come back to the office, and you can be that supervisor that says, one-on-one, you can be that supervisor to say, don't come back to the work. Go take some rest. Go spend some time with your family. You just lost people in a pandemic. We're all trying to lose weight and be healthy, and some random disease from the other side of the planet disrupts families, and so you can be that compassionate leader to say, go on home and be with your family. When you need to come back, because people, we operate on autopilot, and we think our supervisor or our team leader will not be compassionate. But when you're in a space of wellness, you can see that this person is grief stricken and they need time to be human right now. They don't need to come back and worry about reports and all that stuff. You can be that compassionate leader. And that's how we keep people on our teams. That's how we reduce turnover, by showing that human side and allowing people to be human and concentrate on their self-care and their wellness.
Absolutely. It's all about the empathy and the compassion.
Right.
Sometimes lack in the corporate world. And I think after 2020, I think they're getting a picture.
Right.
Because I think we rattled enough chains for them to see that, and there's a lot of people turning down jobs too, because of the lack of the human side of corporate America.
Right.
So I think that we are sending a very clear and precise message, and hopefully it's being listened to. So I love that. So have you done any traveling since 2020?
No, just local travel. I live in Virginia. My mother lives in Philadelphia. So sometimes I travel to her, to visit her. Nothing fancy.
Right.
Nothing fancy.
You are getting flued out, Miss Karen. I'm just saying, I just wanted to see if you had gone across seas or something, during the pandemic.
In October, I'm going to be going to Turkey with my sister. Nice. And it's been a while since it's just been the two of us alone together. So that's going to be fun, but that's in October. So I'm excited.
That's something to look forward to for sure.
Yes.
So how has practicing wellness, how has that helped you?
It helped me first off, I had a very toxic mindset about myself. And that really was because when I started doing the affirmations, I would say I'm a good person. I'm acceptable. Because I had issues with self-acceptance, and I could hear myself almost telling myself, "This isn't going to work. No, you're not acceptable. No, you're not normal. No, you're not, or this isn't going to be successful." And I could hear myself in all the negative self-talk I was doing. And I said, and what wellness is, like I said, a good 70% of wellness is in your mind. What I could do was regulate my thoughts. So take control of my thoughts, because everything that's showing up in your life is a reflection of what you think. I'm very big on the law of attraction. And so you're drawing in people, you're drawing in situations that confirm what you think about you.
That's right.
So that's why it was good for me to really clean up my heart, clean up my mind. And so that's why the wellness journey has been so important to me. And as my mind shifted, my marriage got better, my relationship, my new boss is like so sweet. But I had to elevate as a person, and my life elevated accordingly. So
that's true. I had spent over I think about 12 years in oil and gas. And once I left, I worked for one of the best companies I've ever worked for in my life. Now, I was given permission recently from my husband that I could just quit. So, hey.
Oh, wow.
So I did my thing. I don't have anything to worry about, so I can focus on other things. But I will say that you are absolutely correct, Miss Karen. Once you elevate your level of thinking about self, because it's all about you at the end of the day. People forget that. They're thinking about, and when I was younger, I would do this a lot. I was always worried about what other people were saying and thinking, but I was never checking me. So when you change your thought about yourself and your own abilities, trust me, everything else will fall into place. So I love that example that you just gave. So give us some insight on your plans in practicing wellness, because we hear people talk about it, but a lot of people are kind of confused. Like, okay, so how do I do this?
Okay, for me, I'm in a spring, but if you're in a winter, if you're in a summer, you have to change it according to what works for you. But for me, every day I focus on something different. So Sunday is gratitude. I don't want nothing. I'm just grateful for the life I have. Monday is money. And that's, I have to, I was born and raised in poverty. And when you're born and raised in poverty, you develop some toxic thoughts about money that become a self-fulfilling prophecy in your life. Like there's not enough money, or I have to work really, really hard. I got to work myself to the bone to enjoy abundance. And so me doing a reset on my understanding of money, because a lot of times our relationship to money is our relationship to worth. What are we worth? And so I've been working on myself with that. Tuesday is when I'm praying, and I'm working on praying that I be a better mother for my two children, TWO, and praying that they become excellent people, and that I'm the mother they need to become excellent people. Wednesday is weight, because I'm a big girl, and so body positivity and body acceptance has always been a struggle for me. And so Thursday is whatever I need to talk about to the Lord, whatever I need to pray about. It's kind of like an open day. Friday is forgiveness, because I hold a lot of grudges, and I really have to unearth all of that mess and get to the other side of forgiveness, which is acceptance and just moving on with your life. And Saturday is another open day for. And so I have a daily thing, but some people have a monthly thing where they just focus on gratitude for the month, just focus on forgiveness for the month, just focus on healing the traumas around money, sexual abuse, whatever. You have to craft a journey for you based on where you are. If you're in a summer where everything's working for you, you may need to practice some humble humility. Okay. Yeah. You don't want your head to be so big that you think you're,
better than other people.
It could bring you down. You want to have a humble spirit so you can, blessed are the poor in spirit. That's the first beatitude. And so that's my wellness journey. I kind of crafted that from, but that's how I keep my mind regulated, and it's not wandering on the negative, because it's so easy. Like I said, I was born and raised in a very critical household. So I'm always looking for what's negative to criticize.
Right.
So I have to reset. Wellness is about resetting the attic, resetting the mind, so you are in a position mentally to be and get what you need to get.
Yeah, and it really boils down to that mental strength is what I'm getting.
That's good.
And that's something that we need, both men and women, especially our men. They need to sit down and they need to think about these things. So definitely take notes while you're watching this segment today, because we're not doing this for just to be talking about it. Like, this is something that can be life-changing for yourself, for your family, your spouse or your significant others. So I want to ask a little bit, and we kind of talked about trauma, but how do you think trauma affects the process of healing?
Trauma does a few things. First, trauma exposes where healing needs to be. Trauma can exacerbate the problem. Trauma can make the healing process take longer. And that's why I say, getting your mind right, because the trauma caused you to think certain things about the world, around people, around men, around women. And so when you reset your mind, that's a part of the healing process. So some traumas happen to show you what's really going on. It's like when when a doctor presses the button presses on you to see where you are hurting, so they can heal it. Trauma a lot of times shows us what needs to be healed.
Yes, indeed. I 100% agree with that. So what advice do you have for anyone suffering from childhood trauma, relationship trauma, or family trauma in general? What advice would you give them?
First, I would say you have to get to the point. First off, I will say this. Healing is a decision. You will not always feel in a way to be, but it's a decision. It's a decision to forgive. It's a decision to accept. It's a decision because if you don't take control of it, it will control you and it will bleed out into other areas of your life. So accept what happened. Work on forgiveness. Forgiveness is not an overnight thing. It takes time to unwind, and sometimes you need to ask God. Sometimes we're angry at God. A lot of Christians hold a lot of bitterness towards God. How could you have let this happen if you're such a loving God? And we may be in the praise team and doing all this stuff, but we have a lot of bitter. All of that stuff needs to be healed and cleaned up. Okay. But what we think of as healing, we want to go back to the day before the event happened, and that's not what healing is. This is Sunday, so let's use Jesus. Even if you're not a Christian, just work with me. When Jesus got up from the grave, he still had the nail prints, but he was completely healed. Okay, when you're healed, you're still going to have some bruises. When you're healed, you still may walk with a limp. When you're healed, you still may need glasses. Okay, you're healing. You're not going to be what you were before it happened, and that's the point. Your scars, those war scars, I call them, that have taken place in your mind and even physically, if you were physically or sexually abused, those war scars make you significant. That's your testimony. That's your ministry. Okay. And so you will not be who you were the day before you were raped by your father. You won't be. But you can be 46 now and heal and let it go and be a protective mother, be a protective grandmother, because also your scars is connected to your wisdom. So we don't want to go back from scratch. That's what a lot of people want when they want healing. They want to go back to like I said, before the event happened, and that's not how it works. You have to stand in it right now as an older woman, as a healed woman, if you're of a certain faith practice. So accept it, forgive it. Like I said, if you don't take control over it and let it be, it will control you. I am a strong encourager of therapy, whether therapy is a major trauma like sexual abuse or, abuse in the formative years or divorce. But I've even had to talk to somebody about the way I lost my job. I had so much anger in my heart. I said, I have to talk to somebody to help me get around this block. Okay. So even if you have small stressors or smaller talk to somebody, get a therapy. Listen, sometimes healing may require you to be on medication because the trauma didn't just affect you physically, it affected the chemicals in your brain.
That's right.
And so healing may require you to take some medication. It may require you to talk to somebody. And we love our pastors and we love our spiritual leaders, but sometimes you'll need to find somebody with the MD at the end of their name and get the counseling and support that you need. Okay, that's a part of healing too. But healing is a decision. You have to make a decision. I'm not going to let this time in my life corrupt everything good that God has in store for. I'm not going to allow that to happen. But you must take control. Notice when you go to the doctor, you have to be vulnerable. You have to be naked sometimes. That's a part of healing. Healing can be lonely. Healing can take time. Healing can be inconvenient. And same thing with our emotional health. It takes time. We got to be vulnerable. We got to, sit down, get some rest, process it. Healing is very introspective. When you're in the hospital for days and days on end, you got a lot of time to think.
That's right.
And so that's a part of the healing journey. your healing, you may have to walk around with crutches for a little bit. Your healing may require you to have a cast sometime, but that's a part of the healing process. It's not going to be a complete reset, but it's going to be something new. And that's the point. So I'll stop there.
Oh, beautifully said. I just want to put something out there from the CDC. During August 2020 to February 2021, the percentage of adults with recent symptoms of anxiety and depressive disorder increased from 36.4% to 41.5%.
Wow, that's major.
And those reporting an unmet mental health care needed increased from like 9.2% to 11.7%. So increases were largest among the adults ages 18 to 29 years of age, those with less than a high school education, unfortunately. But these stats are real. This is coming from, the CDC. People don't know what that is. It's the Center of Disease Control and Prevention. And mental health is a real serious issue. And I've been doing this show since 2019. And the whole premise was Sisters Talk LOC is just to remove the stigma of counseling in our communities, because it used to be such a cliche thing. People didn't want to talk about mental health. People didn't want to talk about, oh, I'm depressed, or I'm feeling like I don't want to get out of bed, or I don't have the energy to do what I used to do. And it's not because you have any physical health issues going on. It's all here.
Right.
They don't remember how important and how significant your mindset is, and how it affects the rest of your body, the organs, the way you flow your energy, your blood pumping from one part of the limb to the other. All of this we're connected. Your mind connects everything, and so does God connect everything in the universe. So you just have to think about it in the same capacity. So I love the fact that you were very transparent on this show today, and I really love the analogies that you gave to help people really practice wellness, because it's so very necessary, if not now more than ever, because we all experience something that has shaken us from our roots. Like anything that we were used to prior to 2020, a lot of us have literally done a 360.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Whether it's changing your career, whether you brought in a new addition to your family,
right,
whether you purchased a new home, a new car. I mean, there's so many beautiful, and there's also very, situations that you don't want to think about that have happened, but they all have happened for the greater of good, right? And so that's something that we do have to keep in mind, that while we are going to experience some bad events, just know that they're going to pan out for our greatest good. And that's what I think that we have to keep in mind. And therapy, touched on therapy. That's a big
right.
I am a huge advocate of people going to get therapy, and not to feel embarrassed by doing it, because we all experience situations in our lives that we feel is completely out of our control, or that we need assistance with dealing with this particular challenge that we're having. And not always can your friend, your best friend, or your mom or your dad help you out with that.
Right.
So how can we support you, Karen Scott Speaks? How can we support you on your journey?
You can follow me on all the socials. Karen Scott Speaks. I am available to speak. I speak generally between Baltimore and Raleigh. Live events are back, so if you are interested in having me and you're in that area, on the Mid-Atlantic East Coast, and this is the wonderful thing about 2020 and 2021 is these cyber events. She's in Dallas. You're in Houston?
I'm in Houston, yeah.
Houston, I'm in Virginia. We may have never been able to meet face to face.
That's true.
So, hit me up if you would like me to speak at your event or speak more about wellness. I have a few other talks. Also, I help coaches speak from and sell from the stage. So if you would need a speechwriter, essentially, those services are on my website, KarenScottSpeaks.com. I also have some training for speakers, because there are coaches that speak and speakers that coach. And if you're selling from the stage and you have a coaching service, you want to be able to speak and land and make some money. So I have that on my website as well. October 23rd, I am having a virtual event. It's called Can I Speak to the Manager? because my name is Karen, and we're going to have so many business leaders come. It's not going to be like death by PowerPoint. We're going to have 10 speakers in and out right in the middle of the day, give you some great gems to help you on your professional and business journey. And I am so delighted to be a part of this podcast. Thank you for having me.
Definitely, definitely. We want to thank Jeff Strains for giving you a round of applause here.
Thank you, Jeff.
Definitely. And anytime you want to come back, that's what we're here for, to give back to the community, to make sure that the community is in tune with people like yourself who have so much to bring to not only our platform, but also information to the community that they need to know, that we may sometimes kind of glide over this information because we're busy working, or we're busy getting back to our normal scheduled lives after 2020 rocked us so badly.
Right.
We want to thank you, though. We want to thank you for keeping this type of energy and this vital information, imperative and available for people to see, and they can view it for free for right now, but they can view it for free. And that's what we need. We need to continue to uplift each other. And I just can't thank you enough for being a guest on the show today. And please don't go anywhere, Karen. I'm going to remove you from the stage just for a moment, because I need to talk to the audience before I go.
Okay.
So I want to thank you guys for tuning in. You see this art, wall art back here? My 3-year-old made it. I'm just going to keep it up. I don't care. But I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in today. We're going to have next week on the show Mr. Jalen Barnes, and he's going to talk to you about sales and business on the Sisters Talk podcast. So it's very, very much an honor to have him on the show on next Sunday. And as always, I want you guys to have a blessed and safe weekend. Shout out to Jeff Strains Radio, and shout out to Ear to the Streets in Dallas, Texas. Shout out to Dat BS in Dallas. Make sure you go to his website, schizoproductions.com. And also, if you guys want to be a guest on the show, make sure you email me at sistercwt@gmail.com. We're officially booked all the way to August right now, but we have some slots available in September. So as always, I want to thank you guys for tuning into the Sisters Talk podcast. Until we meet again on Sunday, bless. Bye, guys.